Hi, I'm Mart, and you are watching Mart's Movies Review. Today I'm going to talk about the movie Roadrunner, a film about Anthony Bourdain, the cook, chef, travel writer, and travel presenter, Anthony Bourdain. And there's a nice quote about him after he passed. It said, "Cross the ocean, cross the river, walk in someone else's shoes, or at least eat their food. It's a plus for everybody." One of the men says in the documentary at the end as well, he meant so much to so many people. He was an advocate for the working classes, the immigrants, the poor. The world did not deserve you. So Roadrunner is directed by Morgan Neville. Movie documentary about the life and times of Anthony Bourdain. I first encountered Bourdain about, I think it was 2014. It might have been about 2012 even. I was just kind of looking up Paris, and I was thinking about going to Paris. I think I'd seen a video on Attaché that's run by Alex Hunter. He does a great travel show. He's a great travel presenter. He's based in London. And I saw this kind of a really kind of outstanding kind of 60-minute video on Paris called The Layover. The Layover was a series that Bourdain did, I think, between 2012 and 2014. He did a cook's tour before that. And then he went on to do Parts Unknown. I think he worked with CNN then from 2013 onwards until his passing in 2018. Yeah, and I just loved the show. I just liked his attitude. He kind of had a punk rock, kind of rock and roll attitude. And I could see him that he was kind of an outgoing guy, but he wasn't that outgoing, and he seemed to be a fellow who was kind of quiet and outgoing. And he just kind of, yeah, he got into town. He's on these 48-hour layovers, like this, the kind of American language, English layover, 24 hours, 48, and they showed the clock ticking. And I just liked his voiceover. He's got a great voice as well, and it's kind of friendly, upbeat. Even though he was more of a kind of a glass half empty guy himself, pessimistic, but he had a kind of a upbeat, kind of outgoing social voice anyway, and kind of cool attitude, and I think the trench coat, and he had the sunglasses on, and he was talking about Paris. People in the French get Paris wrong, and he's talking about like going to all these famous landmarks like Arc de Triomphe and Notre Dame or Eiffel Tower. His just attitude was, look, just pass by them, get a picture taken, and just move on. Like, skip it. Like, you don't have to be there all day queuing up. See, especially when you're on a layover for 48 hours. The episode of the Layover Paris is just like one of my favorite episodes in the series. He goes around the world like Alex Hunter and Attaché, and he gets to know the people, the culture, just eating the street food. And he ends up going to in Paris anyways at the bistros and brasseries, and he's going around and knocking around the parks, giving you the history of the place, the culture, and he meets up with a few people along the way. I just like the attitude of the show, like, the music, kind of, it was just great to watch. I used to watch a lot of his shows then, you know what I mean? I didn't care if there were Parts Unknown or The Layover. I just liked a lot of his shows, like just liked the adventure, and he'd make them like movies as well. Some of his shows. I mean, you got a later episode as well, have him in Paris, like why the French don't suck or something, and yeah, it's more of a dark kind of. He's talking about Jean-Pierre Melville movies as well, and Bob de Flamer, and yeah, crime dramas in the 1950s, and they're kind of like the sunken hero. It's, yeah, I just he was really, really well known. I mean, I used to watch him all the time on the show, and I was surprised. I wasn't too surprised that when he passed, that a lot of people knew of him. He's just he's someone you'd say about if you were talking about travel and travel shows. I kind of like travel and travel shows myself, and food documentaries, and seeing different cultures and different peoples, and what what they wear and what they eat. Yeah, and they're different societies. So I find it very interesting to see that, this insight into their lives and their rituals. He went to different places. He went to Iran. He went to Israel. He went around. And he had a French background as well. Bourdain. His own background kind of interesting because he'd written a book about his life and times in the culinary trade. He kind of wrote another book then called Kitchen Confidential. Life and times in the underbelly of the culinary world, I think, and he got famous on. He went on Oprah, and she kind of recommended his book, and then he got going then with Cook's Tour. He did a few episodes of that, and then he was off in the Layover and Parts Unknown, and yeah, he's just a phenomenal storyteller. Great voice, especially for voiceover. Excellent voice. The tragedy of him is kind of what shocked people is that he seemed positive and outgoing and social in his voice and in his demeanor. Same time, he was very dark sense of humor, and he was definitely a glass half empty kind of guy. Even though he didn't seem that way at first, he seems very cheerful and outgoing, and then you get to know him. He's not so much that way, and but and as I say, I think he was outgoing guy, but I don't think he was as outgoing as he portrayed himself in the show. Yet again, like, he was kind of social and he did mix with people, which is good, which is always good. Roadrunner is up on Netflix, and I recommend watching it. Just have memories of watching Anthony Bourdain, Tony Bourdain on his show, and I think it's good to watch because you see outtakes from the show as well, from some of the people who went on the show with him, to show his friends and people he met on the shows, and they reminisce about his life. You see some of his family on the show as well with him. So that's the end of Mart's movies review for this week. You can like this show by pressing the red button right inside of this video, and you can watch more Lear Media shows up on YouTube and on Facebook, Twitter, and the rest of the social media channels. Talk to you next time.